In our film there were two characters, one of course which was the protagonist, who was Agent Jackson, whereas the antagonist, who was the guy spy trying to get documents off him. We represented them in a couple of ways, because they were both spies, and of course we see the scene at the end where they're talking to each other, let's say shouting at each other, threatening each other. It's basically one-way traffic, because the antagonist obviously wants the documents, so he's using excessive force, such as shouting at the top of his voice, which makes the protagonist scared, and he kind of knows that he's going to get defeated because of the way that the antagonist has turned out. And he didn't really put up a fight, the protagonist. He was just laying there looking really worried, whereas others may have put up a fight, got up and gone forwards to try and stop the antagonist getting documents. But clearly it was the antagonist who wanted to win this battle more, and we showed this basically by their language and the tone of voice they spoken. Another method we used was what clothes they wore. Well, the theme of the protagonist's clothes was just casual clothes, whereas the antagonist was wearing his darkest clothes, which would make him more like a spy, like a spy would usually wear black clothes like he was wearing, whereas with the protagonist wearing just his casual clothes, maybe it pointed out the fact that he wasn't taking it as seriously, and the fact that we made the antagonist win, and by dressing him up in dark clothes, making him use the shouting language, kind of emphasises the fact that in these situations it's much more likely that the enemies are likely to take it much more seriously and win the battle simply because they want it more. And that's how often in films like this it turns out to be, that it's the enemy who seems more powerful, especially in early stages like of our film. Other things to take into account when we were representing social groups in our film was the age of the characters used. Both people in the film were teenagers, and that is the same age group as the target audience for our film. This makes it easy for them to connect and understand what they're going through, etc. Which probably means they'll be able to enjoy the film more, as they're seeing people of their age being involved in exciting times, such as a chase through the woods. It also, by having these age groups in our film, it represents perhaps that it's always younger people getting into trouble, and with them both being male too, it's always young males getting into trouble, fighting, chasing. And by having it set in the woods, it shows that often these fights, chasings are away from the centres, so it's very isolated areas, so no one can find out about what's been happening.